It's October. The sea surface temperature is 53 degrees. Bob Lowe, and many other divers, have traveled 2 or 3 hours to scale the cliffs of the Northern California coast. Why is Bob Lowe at Salt Point this day? He came for this. Abalone are big mollusks related to snails. For thousands of years, people have caught and eaten them as a delicacy. The Northern California coast attracts sports divers and commercial divers. We know that the ocean, though large, is a limited resource. The question is, are there enough abalone for everybody? This is a red abalone. When they get enough to eat, and when the ocean remains a comfortable temperature, they can grow to legal size in 8 years. The natural diet of abalone is algae. The kelp beds growing in the cool Pacific Ocean are the basis for the abundant food supply for many animals. The abalone's most important competitor for the food supply is the sea urchin. When the kelp beds are abundant, there is food enough for both species. Kelp forms part of the base of the food web. Abalone and sea urchins are 2 of the many animals which depend on kelp to survive. The sea otter is a predator of both abalone and sea urchins. Otters are part of the natural food web. However, some people feel the sea otter is such an efficient predator that the otters must not be allowed to compete with sports divers for the bounty. Capturing abalone is not easy to do. In Northern California, sports fishermen hunting abalone cannot use scuba tanks. They must dive holding their breath. It's an arduous, demanding form of sports hunting. Many divers are interested in abalone not only as food, but also as trophies. They dive for many extra hours to find abs 10 or 11 inches across. Modern sports diving requires a gauge to measure abalone and an abalone iron to pry them off the rocks. Historically, things were different. The Coast Miwoks were a society who lived in what's now Marin County, beginning about 3,500 years ago. They lived in rough bark or tule shelters, living off the land and sea in relative ease and abundance. Archaeological evidence shows that Chumash, Ohlone, and Pomo people caught and ate abalone. Shells are found buried in the ashes and rubble of the Indian trash heap. They were shore pickers, walking out on exposed rocks during low tide, using bones to pry up the abs. Many people, both ancient and modern, have used the beautiful shells to make jewelry. The outer shell becomes weathered and eroded. An irritating particle trapped inside the shell becomes coated to form a pearl. Abalone pearls are scarce and relatively unknown. Sea otters used to live along the entire Pacific coast, from Japan to Alaska, down California to Mexico. Otters, Native Americans, and abalone coexisted. People took what they needed and what they could reach. Otters ate what they needed and what they could reach. Abalone lived in balance with these predators, safe in narrow crevices. Russians came to Northern California to trap sea otters for their beautiful pelts. They established Fort Ross in 1812, specifically to support the fur trade. In 30 years, they killed hundreds of thousands, ceasing only because the sea otters were thought to be extinct. The Russians abandoned the fort when the otters were gone. A small group of otters survived off the inaccessible coast of Monterey County. The 2,300 sea otters who presently live in California are the descendants of these accidental survivors. By the late 1800s, the elimination of the sea otter resulted in a boom in the abalone population. A commercial abalone fishery was established at Point Lobos in 1898 as a partnership between an American and a Japanese marine biologist. The cannery continued to export abalone to Japan until just prior to World War II. In 1935 alone, 3.5 million pounds of abalone were taken. The hard hat dive suit allowed a greatly increased harvest. In the 1920s and 1930s, abalone could be picked from rocks close to shore. Even as late as the 1960s, abalone were still abundant for shore picking, although the abalone population was much reduced from earlier years. By the late 1970s, only divers could find abs. Sports divers are permitted to take red abalone when it measures at least 7 inches across the shell. It's important not to take abalone of questionable size. If a diver injures an undersized ab, it will lead to death. Abalone lack clotting factor in their blood. The limit here is 4 abs per day. In Southern California, the limit is reduced to 2 abs per day because they have been over-harvested. This drumming in the woods announces the successful hunt.
about 3 times. So.
I'll see you what 3 days.
No, just
Oh, high heels.
Did I forget you too?
Conversation piece.
These friends are drawn into an ancient circle to celebrate the long natural history of Abalone people. We must keep the waters clean and discipline our harvest and guard our special time.